when you're ready.
Ready. Good evening. Being 7 p.m., I'll call to order the McHenry County Board regular meeting of September 19th, 2023. And Mr. Scala will lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For tonight's invocation, we have Pastor Jordan McGowan from Shiloh Church of Crystal Lake.
All right. Every group needs a good AV guy, so thank you for that. Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me tonight. It truly is an honor, and just know I am praying for you guys as our kind of civic leaders. Our church is praying for you, so we just bless you. The first thing as I was praying about what I wanted to share tonight that came to my heart was just wanting to speak to the board members. I know that in a leadership role, sometimes there's things you have to check at the door, personal things that you might carry that might feel heavy, but you sort of set them aside for the sake of the people that you're serving. And I just wanted to quickly, before I kind of get into something else, just wanted to read a verse kind of for you personally. And this is 1 Peter 5, 6 and 7. Says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And so the picture I saw in my mind was, instead of maybe setting these things down, maybe it's illness in a family or a child who's struggling or a friend or a neighbor or a loved one or a circumstance in your life, kind of handing them to Jesus and saying, here, I'm going to give this to you. You can care for it. And it's not as though it gets forgotten for a minute. And so that's something I try to do in my life, and just felt like I wanted to give you that encouragement that the God of all creation cares for you. That's an encouraging thought. And so I wanted to give that to you. I am the pastor of Shiloh Church, a lead pastor. I lead along with my wife, Sarah, and we're in Crystal Lake. And I wanted to say I will be leaving after I'm done because my 3-year-old isn't feeling well. My wife is 7 months pregnant. So I'm going to get back home. But real quickly, I have another short scripture to share, a quick story, a blessing, and a prayer. And so I'll start with a scripture that I had on my heart for the county board. This is Psalm 89, verse 14. It says, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you. I quickly wanted to give a Cliff Notes version of the story of John Calvin and Geneva. If you've heard of John Calvin, famous Protestant reformer in the 1500s. And the nutshell is he got involved in the Reformation of the city of Geneva. It was considered the armpit of Europe at one time. And through his preaching of the word of God and through the moral authority of this book, not so much him, Geneva became one of those prosperous cities in Europe. And that transformation came on the foundation of the word of God. And so my encouragement to you as county board members is that God cares a great deal about government and about the affairs of men and women, about people on the earth. And we don't have to pick a side of the aisle. Righteousness and justice are the foundations of his throne. And his wisdom is the thing that will lead us. The word of God and the Spirit of God will lead to the peace of God. And so I don't say that because I'm obligated to peddle my gospel. I say that because I care about our county, as you do. I care about our cities. I care about the people in them. That's why I do what I do, because I care about people, because God cares about people. And so I believe that the truths of Scripture, righteousness and justice, and the foundation of God's throne will lead to the well-being and prosperity of people. And that's what we are all here to see grow. So I'm going to read a declaration, which is sort of like a prayer, but it's kind of what I want to believe for and what I believe God's heart is for for our county and just the things. And I think all of these things would be things that you would be excited about as well. So this is just kind of a statement, a blessing, if you will. So it says, so Lord, we ask for McHenry County favor with CEOs, government leaders and kings, manufacturing firms that produce goods for the nations and provide new jobs for our people, technology to establish new markets, energy sources and efficient solutions to grow as a population, laws and courts that measure with the justice and the freedom of our land's constitution, civil servants that encourage entrepreneurs, and a media known for wisdom and truth. Natural resources released, harvested, sold, and reproduced. Education, books, and universities that develop mind molders who influence the influential. Capital to build small businesses that provide services, arts, culture, attracting both young and old. A medical community known for integrity and excellence. A release from poverty, small thinking and envy. Courage to recognize opportunities and make wealth. Abundance to bless the world, and the produce to save and invest, and the prudence to save and invest, and revelation to pass on wealth to our children's children. We declare. Doesn't that sound good? Well, that's what our heart would be for our county, and I know that would be your heart as well. So, will you join me as I pray? So, Lord Jesus, I just thank you for this county board. These men and women, sons and daughters of yours, who are laying down their life in the service of others. I just pray you'd release wisdom over our chairman and over the board tonight as they discuss important matters in our area, in our county. And so I just thank you for them. I pray that you would release your peace and your hope. And I pray for everybody's personal life. Everybody in this room has a personal life. Everybody has family and friends and things that they're concerned about outside of the kind of public affairs. And I ask, Jesus, that you would just minister to them in those places where they need comfort, that you would bring them encouragement and strengthen their spirit and their soul to kind of rise up into all that they're called to be. And so I thank you for them, and we ask all of this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Okay, clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Altoff. Here. Campbell. Here. Gottemoller. Here. Greeno. Here. Hendricks. Present. Kaminsky.
Present, count four.
Kearns. Here. Kunkel. Here. Meshes. Here. Ness.
She is here. She's online.
Remote. Reiner.
Here.
Sager.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Scala.
Present.
Smith.
Here.
Van Hoff.
Here.
Von Bergen.
Here.
Wegener.
Here.
17 present, 1 attending remotely.
Okay. Having a quorum, I'll entertain a motion to approve Ms. Ness to attend remotely tonight. Mr. Scala, seconded by Ms. Campbell. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Welcome, Ms. Ness. We'll move on to the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Mr. Gottemoller, seconded by Mr. Kaminsky. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of previous meetings. Mr. Scala, seconded by Ms. Altoff. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. Good evening, everyone. My report to the board will be brief as we move forward to tonight's agenda. I start this evening with the distinct pleasure of announcing that our coroner's office has earned accreditation from the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. Only 3 other offices in the state and 37 nationwide have attained this honor. Congratulations to our coroner, Dr. Michael Reen, and his staff for achieving this significant milestone in our ongoing mission to modernize our coroner's office. And thank you as well to Dr. Reen and the coroner's office for partnering with county administration to secure a just over $113,000 U.S. Department of Justice grant to help make this possible and save taxpayers money through working together. And speaking of being proud, it's also my pleasure to report that at last week's CMAP meeting, the CMAP board renominated our representative, Carolyn Schofield, for a second term as vice chairwoman. During her years as our CMAP representative and during her time on this county board, Carolyn has shown an instinctive aptitude for urban planning and the challenges and opportunities that county and regional growth present. And it was great to see her hard work and attention to detail be recognized once again by her peers. Early next month, our Planning and Development Department will be teaming up with the Region 1 Planning Council to host an open house to gather input on how we can make McHenry County the best place to live, work, play, and raise a family. The feedback gathered will be used to shape R1's comprehensive economic development strategy, as well as other planning documents. The open house takes place from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, October 10th at the McHenry County Mental Health Board building. And finally, this evening, as a reminder to county board members and business owners watching at home, our Procurement and Special Services Department is holding a vendor workshop from 9 to 11 a.m. Friday for vendors wishing to learn how to do business with McHenry County. The workshop will explain our procurement process and will allow attendees to sign up for procurement's mailing list so they can be informed when opportunities arise. The meeting will be held here at the County Administration Building in conference rooms A and B. The meeting will also be held virtually so people who can't make it to Woodstock can still attend. The instructions for attending virtually can be found on our social media pages or by emailing purchasing@mchenrycountyil.gov. Thank you. That concludes my report this evening. Do any members have comments tonight? Ms. Greeno.
As we all know, the Safety Act's first day of operation has brought the real issues of what's happened from the state. And there was a release from our state's attorney's office with examples of the type of people who have been released. I serve on the Refuge for Women board, which helps women get out of the sex slave trade. I also serve on the Wings board, which provides basically a program for women and children coming out of domestic violence. The examples here are a defendant allegedly harassing his girlfriend who had an order of protection against him, who continued with violence against this person. Under the Safety Act, the new charges are non-detainable and he's released back into the community. Another a 23-year-old person who has a history of violence and bad behavior had to be released back into the community. We had 100 counties out of 102 counties in this state file suits against this legislation. And this is the type of thing that we cannot let this lie. It is wrong. Everyone, the citizens, the good citizens of our county and our state know this, and we need to be vigilant in fighting this. Secondly, on a better note, I just wanted to commend the program A Way Out that has been organized by the state's attorney's office, local police departments, the Northwestern Woodstock Hospital, and the McHenry County Health Board, where it allows people to get out of addictive programs and get into new careers and jobs. And it has a very high success rate. Personally, as a business owner, we have worked with a program that WIOA partners with out of Boone County, and hired a person for an internship. That person proved to be a valuable employee. We've trained them, we've hired them, and they are successful in a new career and addiction-free. So these are some great programs that we've got going that are the right thing to do, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Ms. Althoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Chair of Law and Government, I just want the board to know that The Chief Judge, Camille, has been in constant contact with our committee, has appeared himself personally to bring us up to speed on what's going on in the preparations for this first day of the Safety Act, and he continues to reach out and let us know where the bumps and potential problems as well as the successes have been. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to let us know, and we'll make sure that he appears at Law and Government again. He's been extraordinarily communicative, and I'd like to say thank you. In addition, you have been asked to provide legislative updates or legislative concerns that you would like us to consider at Law and Government for our agenda moving forward. We have a very light agenda next Tuesday, so I thought maybe we could take this time to discuss some of those issues and come up with some ideas for the program for the agenda for 2024 in the Spring General Assembly session. Also would like to note that on Friday, we have our Senior Services Grant Commission, and we will be hearing 17 presentations from various organizations, and we will be making recommendations to the board, hopefully at the next county board, for how we allocate those dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further member comments, we'll move on to special recognition. I'll entertain a motion to approve the proclamation honoring the Huntley High School girls track and field team for winning the Class 3A state championship. Mr. Scala makes the motion, Mr. Kearns seconds, and Mr. Kearns will read the proclamation.
Proclamation honoring the Huntley High School girls track and field team for winning the Class 3A state championship. Whereas the Huntley High School Red Raiders girls track and field team won the Class 3A title at the Illinois High School Association State Championship on Saturday, May 20th at Eastern Illinois University. And whereas 3 team members captured state titles, Allie Pansloff for discus, Alex Johnson for long jump, Dominique Johnson for triple jump, and other team members scored points with the top performances. And whereas the Red Raiders State Championship is the first for a McHenry County girls track and field team and the second athletic team in the school history to capture a state title. And whereas the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association named Red Raiders coach Jason Monson as 2023 Coach of the Year for the Illinois girls teams. Now therefore be it proclaimed by this County Board of McHenry County, Illinois, that the members of the board congratulate the Huntley High School Red Raiders girls track and field team for their victory. And be it further proclaimed that this proclamation to be spread upon the records of the McHenry County Board and that the county clerk is authorized to distribute certified copies to the county administrator and Huntley High School as a sign of our respect and esteem.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Unfortunately, the girls' track team is not able to join us this evening. We'll get them a copy of the proclamation ASAP. You live right down the street. Jim lives right down the street, too. So next, we'll move on to zoning petitions. Do any members have items they'd like removed from the zoning consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the zoning consent agenda. Mr. Scala, seconded by Ms. Meshes. Clerk, could you open the voting, please? Voting is open. Have all voted who wish?
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be heard?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. Just a reminder, public comment is your time to address the board. You'll have 3 minutes to do so, at which time the red light will come on in front of me, and I would ask you to summarize your comments if you have not finished already. First up will be Randy Funk.
Good evening, County Board members and Chairman Bueller. My name is Randy Funk. I'm the Algonquin Township Supervisor. I'm here to say some nice stuff about McHenry County. Chairman Bueller and board members, I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude for everyone's support over the past year and a half as the Algonquin Township Common Waste Hauler referendum and ordinance passed at our township board meeting on September 13, 2023. It was one of my goals in 2021 as the newly elected supervisor to implement a common waste hauler program during my term in office to save the residents money on their waste hauler bills and decrease the amount of waste hauler traffic in order to save tax dollars on road construction costs as well. The savings to unincorporated 3,700 households we have in Algonquin Township over a 4.5-year contract is conservatively estimated at $700,000. One senior citizen I talked to last week is paying $186 a quarter for her senior rate. Her new rate will be $61.80 a quarter. She was ecstatic, to say the least. The idea of going from 3 garbage trucks on the road versus 15 that usually impacted our air quality, the reduction of wear and tear on the roads, and provides a viable alternative to open burning of yard waste in unincorporated Algonquin Township. It was Kelly Bachman, McHenry County Solid Waste Manager, who sent an email in April 2022 that started the ball rolling. She invited all county supervisors who currently didn't have a common waste hauler ordinance to consider implementing one. We had total support from the beginning from Kelly and her manager, Patricia Nam. They attended our board meeting to help answer the township trustees' questions before voting to put the referendum on April 4, 2023 ballot. Kelly also made herself available to help homeowners associations with some of the more technical questions based on her vast knowledge and experience. Once the referendum was put on the ballot in April, the residents overwhelmingly supported the common waste hauler thing. Deborah Nitro and her team were also helpful and patient with all the different requests during the research and past ordinance and the creation of a referendum in ordinances. Chairman Bueller, I also want to thank you for suggesting that the township join the county purchasing department under the Government Joint Purchasing Act to share resources in the bidding process. Jalen Daigle explained what shared services are and how a joint purchasing agreement could save our township a lot of time and taxpayer dollars by combining efforts with the county bid process. We also like to thank Adam Latendry, Procurement and Special Services, and his team for lightning, quick response to add us to the bid process. We were down to the wire on a very tight time frame, and everyone responded to phone calls and emails swiftly. Partnering with McHenry County has been a pleasant experience for our township, has exceeded our expectations as everyone went above and beyond to help in an extremely professional, and they were always accessible.
Could you summarize your comments, please?
Again, I truly appreciate the time and talent. It has been a fantastic experience working with the county, and as you can see, we're very well appreciative of it. Thank you.
Next will be Alejandra Gutierrez, followed by John Durden.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm short. Hi, my name is Allie Gutierrez. I am the Program Manager for Case Management and Supported Living with the Association for Individual Development, or as most know us as AID. My agency currently receives grant funding from the Mental Health Board, and we strongly support the ask for the consideration of a sizable increase for their budget this next fiscal year. Their funding has not only allowed us to provide services to those uninsured, but also those underinsured, and assist us in bringing bridging the barrier to transportation needs for public transportation due to the lack of options within the county by providing us with things like gas cards, Uber and Lyft rides through Kaizen, and also fare assistance. This has assisted us in ensuring that these clients can get their health appointments, job interviews, work, and so much more. The Mental Health Board also connects us to local agencies and strongly promotes the collaboration and partnerships to assist any individual that comes through our doors to the best way we can. And if our services alone are not enough, to assist them in finding cover for their needs. There's a lot of major world events and local events that are impacting us and the individuals within the county. The increase in cost of living and the employment struggles for our individuals within the county have also shown an increase in the need of assistance with things like mental health and transportation. EID has had to request additional funding from the Mental Health Board before and continue to ask for assistance and the increased needs of our clients. We've never had to do this before. The aftermath of the pandemic has also become evident within the past year, and our county has seen an increase in those struggling with things like symptoms of anxiety, depression, and substance use. We've seen an increase in suicidal ideations and even suicide deaths. We have had to start wait lists for all of our programs, which we've never had to do before, and have had to have the longest wait times for any individuals, but specifically for our children. You will likely hear similar stories from other local agencies, either in similar situations or even worse situations than we are. I understand that the importance of the need of additional funding for all other county boards, and that there is never enough funding or money to cover all of our realistic needs, but we all have mental health, and we are not currently equipped to take care of it. Thank you.
John Durden, followed by Donna Rasmussen.
Hi there, my name's John Durden, and I'm with Warp Core in the Woodstock Square. We're a charity that uses music, art, and action sports for the local youth as a positive outlet to try to address part of what Allie was talking about there, mental health issues. We also focus on helping those who are currently struggling with addiction or homelessness. And so between our homeless outreach programs and harm reduction program and just our general interactions with the people of Woodstock and McHenry County, we can confidently say that there's a gap in services in this county when it comes to mental health services. A lot of the young people that we are working with struggle with mental health problems every day, and the individuals struggling with substance abuse and homelessness are pretty much always just undiagnosed or untreated cases of mental health issues. And so with this in mind, I came here to just advocate you guys increasing the budget for the mental health board for the coming months and years. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Donna Rasmussen, followed by Emily Kirshner.
Hi, I'm Donna Rasmussen. I'm the Executive Director of Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Northern Illinois, and I thought my board meeting was going to go long. I did not dress for the occasion, so apologize. I am a veteran. I am a United States Navy veteran. I am a disabled veteran, and I know a lot of veterans in the community who don't talk about their mental health issues, but we all know that veterans struggle more than, percentage-wise, more than most people with mental health issues. So for the veteran community, I'm here too. But I just have some numbers I want to share. With my agency, we do credit and budget counseling. We have a liaison in the courtroom every Friday when evictions are being heard. And those evictions and foreclosures are not slowing down at all. We did not think that we would be needed there beyond the year 2021. And now here we are in 2023, going every Friday. The court is very accommodating to us. The judge looks to us for information about clients' status for rental assistance. And if you don't think that there's a need for increased mental health funding, you should go sit in the eviction court any Friday of the month and see exactly what kind of mental health issues some of these people are dealing with. The depression and anxiety and inability to work because of that, and it's just a snowball effect. So this year in 2023 so far, 3/4 of the way through the year, 70% of all of our McHenry County counseling sessions are for residents who are below the average median income. 20% of those people that we counseled this year so far are below 30% of the median area income. 29% are below 50. 23% are below 80. So again, finances and the lack of the ability to pay your bills with inflation, increasing to 12% over the last year, indicates a huge need for an increase in mental health funding. 40% of the people that we serve, after we do a survey before and we do a survey after each counseling session, 40% of those people indicate that their anxiety level is high and maybe decreased a little because of our counseling and helping them figure out a budget or some housing situation resolutions. But 40% of the people have a mental health issue that come to see us. And those are the people that we do bill those counseling sessions to the mental health board. I just want to really quickly, a couple more numbers.
You could summarize your comments, please.
Okay. Most of the sessions that we do are housing related and people who are foreclosing or reverse mortgage so that they can afford to stay in their homes. So I really implore you to please consider increasing that, the funding, because the people in our county need it. Thanks.
Emily Kirschner, followed by Thomas Faber.
Okay. Hello, my name is Emily Kirschner. I'm a senior at Crystal Lake South High School, and I'm here as a youth voice from NAMI, McHenry County. NAMI is a local mental health nonprofit that provides free mental health services to the community. We help those in crisis and in need with our recovery and support programs with the goal of ending the stigma around mental health through education and advocacy. We offer support and instruction through meaningful interactions in our peer-to-peer and family-to-family programs. We aim to bridge the gap in mental health awareness through our QPR, suicide prevention training, and mental health first aid programs. We strive to provide accessible mental health resources to McHenry County. We live here, we work here, and we serve people here. Mental health is often a taboo, especially in high schools, though the need for it in this county is outstanding. We are in a mental health crisis, nationally and especially in our county. The suicide and self-harm rate in McHenry County is 81.8 per 100,000. That is nearly 8 times the state and national rates, as cited by the 2023 Community Health Needs Assessment from Northwestern Medicine. They also found that 40% of survey respondents reported feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge every month, a percentage which has doubled since the 2020 survey. Suicides in McHenry County rose by 72% from 2020 to 2022. Just as an organization, we've seen significant gaps in crisis response. 80% of the clients who come to us are in crisis and experience suicidal ideation versus about 50% just a year ago. We are also seeing increasing numbers in children in crisis. These numbers report the people who have been able to find support and help and speak up. I would not be here today, and I would not have the courage to speak if I did not receive help for my anxiety or educations about the resources I have in my community. If I can cite one thing that has helped me become a great student, it has been the mental health resources I have been provided with. But there are hundreds of underserved people in this county unable to receive adequate care. As a high school student and someone who has spoken on many panels and been through many board meetings, I understand it is difficult to get resources. We have an amazing staff at my school. We have an incredible staff at NAMI, yet there is so much need being unmet. So much of the time, we wait for a tragedy to react. But there have been countless tragedies in the county, and we cannot wait any longer. I urge you, increase funding for organizations like NAMI. Your neighbors, your family members, children, and students like me rely on these resources in order to thrive. If not for now, for the future of McHenry County. Thank you.
Thomas Faber.
Thank you. My name is Tom Faber. I am board president for NAMI, McHenry County. And as we've heard already, the need for individuals to get help for their mental health and substance abuse is overwhelming. But I have not lost on those stories personally, but I want to talk to you about a different group that is in need, and that is the business owners in McHenry County. I am a certified workforce development professional, and I am employed to help businesses in McHenry County with their workforce needs. And I will share with you that almost every business that I talk to ask the question, where are the workers? Where are all the workers? Alan Krieger is a Princeton University professor, and before the pandemic, he wrote a Brookings paper titled, "Where Have All the Workers Gone?" And I'm going to quote part of that is that he stated, "The opioid crisis and depressed labor force participation are now intertwined in many parts of the U.S." What he's saying is that in part, before the pandemic, it was substance abuse and mental health that was impacting our labor force. Businesses need workers. Ms. Greeno, you pointed out in your opening statement what services can accomplish when they are provided for a person to get back into the workforce. And I have seen that over and over in my work. And if adequate services are provided, we have skilled workers that can provide what businesses need. Our county needs a workforce just like every other place. We have people sitting on the sidelines because of mental health and substance abuse. We have people that are dying of overdoses, and those that don't die do not go back to work. We have parents that are at home taking care of their children because they attempted suicide and cannot go to work. We have workers that have employers, businesses that have workers that are absent, or absenteeism and presenteeism that's impacting their business. I also sit on the board for State Line SHRM.
If you could summarize your comments, please.
That is the Society of Human Resource Management. And in a recent informal survey, a majority of these HR professionals stated that mental health, mental illness for the care for their workforce is one of the top priorities. So as business people and economically speaking, we need to spend the money to give our workers and our businesses the workforce that they need. Thank you.
Abby Nicholas.
Good evening. My name is Abby Nicholas, and I am the new Executive Director at NAMI of McHenry County. NAMI, otherwise known as the National Alliance on Mental Illness, provides free mental health services here in McHenry County. I'm here today to ask the County Board to consider increasing the Mental Health Board's budget for fiscal year 2024. There is a mental health crisis in McHenry County, and while Emily already so eloquently went over the stats, I will say them one more time because I think they're so important. In a recent survey of county residents, nearly 40% of respondents reported feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge every month, which has doubled since 2020. From 2020 to 2022, suicides in McHenry County rose by 72%, and last year was an all-time high for our county. At NAMI, the clients coming through our doors are in crisis, with 8 out of 10 struggling with suicidal ideation, compared with 5 out of 10 just a year ago. In my short time tonight, I'd like to focus on the reasons why an increase from the county is the only option to alleviate the mental health crisis in McHenry County. I've heard some say that agencies should seek more funds from private donors, host more fundraisers, or write more grants. I'm here to tell you tonight that the nonprofits in the community and the other agencies are doing all of this and more just to make ends meet. 4 years ago, 84% of NAMI's budget came from the Mental Health Board. This year, it's 67%, and this includes incremental increases in Mental Health Board funding each year. In 2024, we will be aggressively seeking yet another 25% increase in private fundraising dollars, but that is just to keep our heads above water and pay for increasing costs in key areas such as hiring, salaries, and staff retention. And the reality is, fundraising and giving is down across the country. According to Giving USA, when adjusted for inflation, charitable giving declined more than 10% in 2022, And with uncertain economic conditions, this impact is not going away anytime soon. In my estimate, it will take about 5 years, and maybe more, to increase NAMI's private fundraising dollars to equal the impact of the Mental Health Board budget increase for 2024. While I will continue to work incredibly hard to increase our private fundraising dollars in the next 5 years, we cannot wait 5 years to address the mental health crisis in our county. More than 40% of our residents are struggling. Suicide rates are skyrocketing, and our youth are in crisis. We need an increased budget to meet these urgent needs now, not 5 years from now. The only way to push immediate and significant funds at this mental health crisis is through an increase to our mental health board. With increased funds, NAMI McHenry County can not only meet the existing demand, but can work towards actively expanding our free mental health services throughout our entire county, especially our rural areas. We currently serve more than 3,000 individuals every year, and with increased partnership from the county, we look forward to rapidly increasing our reach and
Summarize your
impact
comments, please.
in order to meet the urgent demand. On behalf of NAMI and the other agencies, thank you for your consideration.
Okay, that's all the speakers who checked to speak. There's a couple more names on here. Just want to verify that you do not wish to speak. Winter, no. Courtney Behrens, Andy Breen. Your Winter.
Hello, I'm Winter No. I am the Executive Director for Options and Advocacy. I'm also a mother of 4. I grew up in McHenry County, left for a while to get my education, and came back to raise my family here and provide those professional services that we now offer through Options and Advocacy right here in McHenry County. I'm going to echo a lot of what you've already heard tonight. The Autism Resource Center has been around for 12 years, and we have served well over 700 unique individuals, their families, and the surrounding county that they live in. We do our very best to support everyone that we can. We grew from a team of 1 to a team of 8. We are pretty strong and mighty and making a big difference here in McHenry County. But the bottom line was, even when we are fully staffed, we only scratch the surface. We are not meeting the needs in McHenry County. And it's only getting worse. The Mental Health Board is the primary funder for the Autism Resource Center. And for the past few years, we have received level funding. What does that mean? We're grateful, we appreciate, and we understand that they have a budget that cannot truly meet the needs of every single agency that is applying for those dollars. So we seek and we work really hard to fundraise, as Abby so eloquently shared. We work our tails off. We look for other opportunities. We look for private funding. But again, it does not allow us to competitively pay those that we need to provide these needed services. About 1.5 years ago, this resulted in a major team transition for the Autism Resource Center. That team of 8 dwindled. We were down to 2. We had to rebuild. It required us to freeze our intakes and stop serving. We had to focus only on individuals who were in crisis. We did rebuild to the best of our ability, but this was only done with some very difficult decision-making. We cut our team by 2 full-time positions in order to maintain those who we were able to keep on our team. So a team of 6, that means less staff, less people served. That means continued wait lists. This story is not unique to Options and Advocacy or the Autism Resource Center. As you've heard from others, the need in our communities is rising, and our ability to meet those needs is decreasing. I urge you to consider allocating more dollars to the Mental Health Board this coming year. I know that this county board has prioritized mental health services and as an area of importance. And all of us are trying to keep our McHenry County services thriving. We need your help as a network. The Mental Health Board needs your help to help the network, to help our community. The health of our community is genuinely in your hands. Thank you.
Courtney Behrens.
Sorry, she's much shorter than me. I'm Courtney Behrens. I'm the program manager for what is called part of the ARPA grant. It was the Neurodiversity and Mental Health Clinic. I wanted to bring an update to you. We do have a program name. It is called Neuro Inclusive Counseling Program. We have actually hired an intake coordinator. We have 2 therapists that are in the process of being hired. We are still interviewing and attempting to secure a bilingual therapist. We have extensive training for staff in the upcoming month. We have tentative services to start in November, and we have a wait list developed. But we are also a small drop in this large, sea of our county. So as I started to process, I wanted to make sure I gave you an update of where we are with the ARPA funds and the program development, because that's very important to our agency at Options and Advocacy. But also, as a taxpayer and a professional living and working in this community, I support the Mental Health Board's request for higher taxes to support our mental health deficits in McHenry County. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to review the Pritzker Blueprint report from Dana Weiner, but McHenry County is in a deficit, which means that we have a higher demand of mental health services versus the ability to support. And that is hard, concrete evidence in the report that she released a couple of months ago. So as a professional, I support the request for the increase. As a parent, I support the request for the increase. And as a taxpayer, I support the request for the increase to move our county from the deficit zone to taking care of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Pete, could you reset the light here? Andy Breen.
Good evening. My name is Andy Breen. I'm standing before you as a resident of McHenry County and the Director of Prevention and Wellness Services for the Break Teen Center. I'm here to deliver a prepared statement on behalf of my agency and on behalf of, the Youth Empower Alliance, which is a network of youth agencies here in the county. Mental health is an integral aspect of overall well-being, impacting individuals, families, and communities alike. Sadly, we find ourselves in a situation where the demand for mental health services far exceeds the available resources. The consequences of this underfunding are severe and far-reaching, affecting the most vulnerable members of our society. First and foremost, our current mental health system is overburdened and struggling to meet the growing demand. Individuals in crisis are forced to wait excessively long periods for access to care, which can exacerbate their conditions and result in dire consequences. Our mental health professionals are stretched thin, facing heavy caseloads and limited resources, making it nearly impossible for them to deliver the quality of care our community deserves. Moreover, the lack of adequate funding for mental health resources perpetuates a cycle of crisis and emergency-based care. When individuals cannot access timely preventative services, they often reach a point of crisis requiring costly emergency interventions. This not only places an immense strain on our healthcare system, but also puts a significant financial burden on the community as a whole. By increasing funding for mental health resources, we can break this cycle and invest in the well-being of our community. The benefits of such an investment are manyfold. We will be able to improve access to mental health services, ensuring that individuals in need can receive timely and appropriate care. This in turn will lead to better outcomes, reduced hospitalizations, and an overall improvement in the quality of life for those struggling with mental health issues. Furthermore, increased funding will allow us to expand community-based mental health programs and initiatives. We can establish partnerships with local organizations, schools, and clinics to provide comprehensive mental health support. By investing in prevention and early intervention programs, we can identify and address mental health concerns before they escalate, saving both lives and resources in the long run. In conclusion, I implore you esteemed members of the County Board to recognize the urgent need for increased funding for mental health resources. By doing so, we will create a community that supports and uplifts its members in times of need. Let us be proactive, compassionate, and forward-thinking in addressing mental health issues. Our actions today will shape a healthier, more resilient, and inclusive community for generations to come. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment this evening. We'll move on to new and unfinished business. Mr. Scala.
Make a motion to approve items 13A, B, and C.
Second, Mr. Shorten. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, could you open the voting, please?
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be shown?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to appointments. I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointments. Ms. Meshes, seconded by Ms. Greeno. Any discussion? Seeing none, just please note Ms. Von Bergen wishes to abstain from this vote. If you could open the voting, please. Voting is open. Have all voted who wish?
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be shown?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to standing committee chairperson updates. Do any committee chairs or liaisons have updates tonight? Ms. Meshes?
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of the Valley High Operating Committee, we will not be having a meeting on October 3rd, but I would like everybody to save the date for October 18th. There'll be a groundbreaking ceremony at Valley High on the 18th. So there'll be more information to come soon. Thank you.
Mr. Kearns?
Yes, Transportation Committee meeting for next week on the 27th is most likely to be moved, so watch it. It's most likely to be moved here to the admin building. That meeting is at 8:15. Don't know the exact room yet. You're working on that, right, Pete?
I think it'll be A and B.
Okay. Also, on the Thursday, the 28th, long-awaited Stormwater Management Commission meeting, 8:15, Conference Room A, full agenda. We will have elections, officer elections, and reviewing bylaws, possibly voting on the bylaws changes. So need full attendance at that. Make sure you guys, on the commission, if you're not able to come, let me know ASAP. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell?
Okay, so the first one I wanted to, can you hear me? The first one I wanted to talk about was the EMA that I liaison to. And in our packet today, we approved the natural hazard mitigation plan. And so the reason I want to take a few minutes to talk about it is I want to underscore the significance of this document and the work that went into it. And I maybe should have done that during member comments when more people were here, but I think it's important to discuss. First, what is hazard mitigation? It can be defined as any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risks to life and property from a hazard event. The 2023 McHenry County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan is a multi-hazard mitigation plan that focuses on the identified major natural hazards facing McHenry County. They've been identified as floods, severe summer storms, severe winter storms, tornadoes, extreme heat, and cold events, and drought. It also identifies activities that can be undertaken by both the public and private sectors to reduce safety hazards, health hazards, and property damage caused by natural hazards. It was prepared by the Natural Hazard Mitigation Planning Committee, which was comprised of representatives from various county departments and all interested municipalities, townships, and agencies, and led by Director Christensen and his, I'm going to say, very top-notch team. It's not a county-wide, but rather it is a multi-jurisdictional plan, and it includes only those governmental agencies that participated in its development. Each participating agency will adopt the mitigation plan for their own mitigation projects, just as we have done here this evening. Participating agencies must adopt the plan by resolution in order to be eligible for FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, hazard mitigation grant funding. This is not tied to disaster assistance, it's mitigation. It's what occurs before the disaster hits. The mitigation plan was developed to fulfill the federal mitigation planning and requirements of the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 and the Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act for funding under the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance Program. There are two types of mitigation grants that are available to participating agencies. There are planning grants and project grants. Examples of mitigation planning grants include, for example, a study of repetitive loss areas, or an evaluation of critical facilities to determine if they are disaster resistant, or perhaps development of an emergency response plan. Examples of mitigation projects include floodplain property acquisition, which is something the county does already, or construction of a tornado shelter at a senior care facility. All grants require 25% local match, which means 75% of the project is covered by the federal government. But this is strategic. Federal dollars are tax dollars, but this is a more efficient use of our resources. The federal government is trying to incentivize agencies to implement mitigation efforts to reduce total costs associated with natural hazards. For every $1 spent on mitigation, you save $7 to $8 in post-disaster expenses. So it actually costs everyone less if we mitigate. The plan is also eligible for credit under the FEMA National Flood Insurance Program's community rating system, which impacts flood insurance costs here in the county and keeps rates lower. This is a 5-year plan, so it's important to get as many communities involved as possible, and the staff worked very hard to do that this year. The maps were kind of falling down, so they've been set aside, but those two maps again do indicate who was in the plan, including 4 of our townships, which is up from last time. Our McHenry Fire Protection District, and then it shows you the communities as well. So just a huge thank you to Director Dave Christensen and really his incredibly talented team. I would note that County EMA is a small department, but they have consistently delivered impressive results and have worked diligently to keep McHenry County and our local partners safer and more resilient as we continue to face increasingly more extreme natural hazard events, both in terms of intensity and duration. The second thing I was just going to say real briefly for the Regional Planning Commission, they have been moving, they've been progressing with the land use map that was covered last time. All of the meetings are recorded, so you can find them in the meeting portal. The next meeting is Thursday, September 28th. Apparently lots going on that day at 6 p.m. here in the admin building. There will be a presentation by Mike Tryon, former state representative and licensed professional environmental scientist. He is also a consultant with solar providers. He will be talking about solar farms and the pros and cons and all that's involved in getting those up and running. So tune in if you can. Thank you.
Ms. Wagner?
Thank you. I wanted to speak about workforce development real quick. So a couple weeks ago, United States Representative Foster met.
Ms. Wagner, hold on a second. I'm not sure if the mic is working. Is your light on, Mike? Mr. Scala? Mr. Scala, is your light on?
I'm on.
Could you use Mr. Scala's mic? For some reason, yours isn't working.
It is. I think
it is? Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like
Maybe I'm just not close enough.
False alarm.
Okay, so I am the liaison of the Workforce Network. U.S. Representative Bill Foster met with Workforce Network a couple weeks ago pertaining to funding that affects our Workforce Development Department, specifically our youth training program. This is the program that educates youth who are 19 to 24 for their GED or for other training programs. So sometimes when we think about federal funding and how Congress works, it seems so far away from what we do here at the county. And we all heard how the House and the Senate are in a stalemate about funding. Well, this is part of that funding that may be taken away. The funds were actually part of the bipartisan approved budget in the Senate. which is no longer on the table. So we need to hope that Representative Foster can convince the rest of Congress to include this youth funding in their budget. So I want to thank Representative Foster for being there and for Workforce Development for meeting with them. And also there is a meeting tomorrow morning for the Workforce Development Board. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no further updates, we'll move on to routine consent agenda. Do any members have items they'd like removed from the routine consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain, I have your abstention for 16B51. The clerk will note that. Mr. Scala makes the motion to approve. Ms. Althoff seconds. Clerk, could you open the voting? Voting is open. Have all voted who wish?
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be heard?
Yes.
Motion carries. Move on to ordinances. We have one for review, second for action. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 17B1. Mr. Scala.
I'll make a motion to approve item 17B1 and to waive the 30-day review for this ordinance.
Okay. I've been informed there is no 30-day review for transportation items, but
Well, I thought we,
that's what I was told today. So
We're talking about 17B1 or
17B1, A1 is for
17B1.
review only.
no, 17A1 is for review, 17B1
A1
is
is
for
for
action.
review only, and for action, for voting tonight will be 17B1. So Mr. Scala made that motion, Mr. Kern seconds. Discussion. Mr. Hendricks.
Yeah, I would object to this. Was this studied in committee at any point? I know there's a timeline, and I would seek to table it until the September 28th meeting for the county budget, which I believe would still fit in with the October 1st deadline. This is an 80% tax increase on, admittedly, the gas tax, but for us to just put this through without looking at it in the budget, without it, as far as I'm aware, maybe I'm wrong, without it being discussed or at least voted upon at committee?
To your question, there is a timeline, and it is October 1st is when this must be acted upon if it's going to go into place January 1st. We had a very robust discussion at Transportation Committee, but only in a conceptual standpoint. And as we left Transportation Committee, we kind of had a pretty clear understanding we were going to move ahead with this, but we didn't know if we would have a chance to vote on it one final time in Transportation Committee or not. And as we left Transportation Committee, the State's Attorney's Office then verified for us that we needed to get this done by October 1st. At that point, we were in contact with Chairman Bueller, Chairman Scala, Chairman Kearns. We made the decision that there was enough of a consensus at Transportation Committee to move ahead and go right to Finance Committee. This was on the full Finance Committee agenda, and it was not pulled for discussion. This was on the Committee of the Whole agenda last Thursday, and it was not pulled for discussion.
We discussed it.
Was it pulled at Finance? I apologize. We did, so there was discussion, yes. We had more to discuss than we did. It went quicker than we anticipated, but yeah, so I apologize for that.
Mr. Kearns?
Yes, it was robust, and Pete, one thing about this, in our strategic plan, we actually talked about this strategic plan in the spring for alternate revenues to ease our levy, to help us with our levy. And this was discussed last year.
Mr. Sager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand certainly a reticence on behalf of all members who might be concerned about raising the fuel tax, especially when we're really doubling it for the county, as it were. But I think that there are some realities that we have to accept and to understand. The first is that just as we experienced tonight with the many requests we have coming before us with regards to increasing the mental health board budget, the needs are extreme. And road improvements and road needs, infrastructure development, and maintenance within the county are extreme needs. They are high cost items, and it's really important that we address that. And one of the ways that we can address that is through the motor fuel tax. The second thing that I think it's important for us to understand is the fact that it is difficult to make a jump of this magnitude. But I don't want to get into percentages because I think that that overinflates people's mind in terms of what it is. But it is an increase here of cents per gallon is what the increase is. And in that cents per gallon, we are looking ahead to creating a revenue source for the improvements to infrastructure, which I think majority of the people within the larger community would say that we have to have. There's another really important thing, I think, is that I personally wish that we would not necessarily take these huge jumps sometimes. And we wouldn't have to be doubling something, if you will, but we just take more incremental jumps. I think that it's easier to do that, whether we're talking about, bills or fees associated with liquor licenses, or whether we're talking about taxes on motor fuel or whatever it might be. I think that it's incumbent upon us to be mindful of this on a more regular basis. Frankly, because I think that the population finds it more palatable if we do this more incrementally. However, in this particular circumstance, the needs are very real, they're very strong, and I think we are limited by state statutes on the amount of money that we can move toward. I think we need to go ahead and do this at this time to take care of our specific needs. Thank you.
Ms. Greeno?
I understand that we do not want to increase the tax levy this year in our budget. And with respect to that, this was offered as a use tax. I have researched it, and I would like full disclosure of what I found so that we're all aware as we pass our votes that this is for the collar counties. We would be the second highest county, with DuPage being the top at 9.1 cents. Of course, the counties around us are still at about 4 cents or under 5 cents. It makes the gas tax in McHenry County 65 cents with the federal and state taxes. And this is something that I could find no evidence for in any of the Wisconsin counties or counties outside of the Chicago area, because this was set up for the collar counties. Things that I would love to know if we had more time, I realize October 1st is impending, would be how many gallons of gas has to be sold to make up the difference in what we need for transportation? And would we have any opportunity then to decrease this next year? And we could look at this every year. I would suppose that if it goes one way, it can go the other way. And I would like for us to be mindful of that and actually remember to look at this again. And I would actually like to know how many gallons of gas would have to be sold in McHenry County to cover the deficits in transportation. Because these are things, this hits the workers. We've been talking about the workers, we've been talking about depression, suicide, all of these things going on with inflation in our local economy, and we are in it. I mean, we are just kicking off this recession. And the people who are going to work are the ones that are paying out of their pockets at the gas tank. This is just one more thing that hits them. So I'm not telling anyone how to vote. I just want us to be mindful and have our eyes wide open of what we're doing, and then also to take responsibility for keeping our eyes on it over the next year and what progress we make.
Ms. Wagner?
Thank you. I understand that people don't want to raise taxes and that it sounds terrible for a political elected person to raise taxes. Nobody wants to do this. If we think about what we're doing, this money is going toward our roads, toward our bridges, toward the infrastructure, so we can have our trucks and our businesses and our agriculture workers drive on our roads so they can get to work, so they can farm, and basically drive their families on safe roads and bridges. Right now, we have 2 bridges in the county that that are closed. So just something to think about where this money's going. Yes, we heard all the need that we have in mental health, and we do need to fund that this year. I just want to put this increase in perspective. So we hear a lot of percentages doubling, well, 4 cents. So if you spent 4 cents, if you have a 20-gallon car, you're going to spend about 80 cents each time you fill up, 80 cents, which means you fill up every week. It's an average, it's about $42 a year. That's it, $42. So $42 may be a lot to some people. I understand that. But it's also something we all use the roads, we all use the bridges, and they need to be funded. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm asking, I'm a no vote on this, but I'm primarily asking, is there anything stopping us from when we all meet on September 28th to just have another vote on that? We would make the deadline of October 1st, correct?
Today's our voting meeting.
And I'm asking to table it to September 28th.
Are you making a motion to table?
I am, yes. I'll make
Is
a
there a
motion.
second to that motion?
I second.
Ms. Van Hoff seconds.
Point of order, he's actually asking for a motion to postpone to time specific.
Pardon me?
He's actually asking for a motion to postpone to time specific of September 28th. Not a motion.
Friendly amendment there, Mr. Hendricks?
I'll allow
To
the
a date
friendly
specific?
amendment if that's what's needed.
Okay, Ms. Van Hoff, you second that?
Second, yes.
Clarification, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
He's making a motion to postpone to date specific, which only requires a majority vote, is that correct? Correct. Does that answer your question, Ms. Campbell?
No, my question was, the 28th is in a voting meeting.
That's what I just said.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we're gonna
tabling
vote,
it, and which means we're tabling it indefinitely, because if we can't vote on it on the 28th, we can't have it done by the 1st.
okay, so this is part of the discussion on the motion. Mr. Gottemoller?
My point exactly. You can't vote that day. It's not a voting meeting. You know, unless you're going to republish for voting meeting between now and the 28th, which even if it could be done, shouldn't be done. You know, I would vote no to this extension.
Ms. Meshes?
I would also be a no vote to this extension. I know that the motor fuel tax ordinance on our agenda tonight seems like it came quickly, but this was something that was discussed last November, maybe last October even. I'm actually surprised that we didn't discuss it earlier, but perhaps that is due to the fact that we were trying to get our legs underneath us after having so many of us as new members. The motor fuel tax is absolutely necessary. We have got to increase the MFT. While I was sitting here, I did think to myself, I have a legislative agenda that I'll email Pam for long government. But as for MFT, I'm a no vote for the tabling to date a form, and I will be a yes for increasing the motor MFT.
Okay. Seeing no further comment on Mr. Hendricks' motion. Mr. Hendricks?
I'd ask for a roll call vote then, or division of the House, whatever motions
I don't
needed.
think it's necessary. If there's no more comments, we're going to take a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye. Against? Nay. I think it's pretty clear which way we're going on this, so there will not be a roll call vote. Back to the original motion to approve this ordinance. Any further discussion, Mr. Reinert?
Yes, thank you. I do see the need, if we are to keep our levy down, and knowing that other taxing bodies are going to be raising all of their taxes also. This is mighty quick. I would, point, 8 cents a gallon, being the second highest. And I know we need this for transportation, but I do feel that that's just a little bit too high. I could possibly see 2 cents this year and then vote to see how that did help us in transportation and our budget. And then we could possibly vote to raise it next year. But to me, 8 cents a gallon is just, and we didn't really have a lot of time for public discourse or discussion on this either. I just think it's a little, it's a little heavy. So if it were to stay at 8, I would say no. My vote would be a no, but I would possibly consider somewhere in the middle.
Mr. Shorten? Hold on a second. There we go.
This is obviously a tough one, and I agree with Mr. Reiner on short notice. We don't have a chance really to correspond with the public at large about this. I fully recognize that when you talk to the electorate, aside from complaining about the cost of property taxes, probably the second thing is, what's going on with the roads. So, I think it's important. I think that the one thing that I'll say that I not like about this is that it casts the burden upon the people that are using the roads, as opposed to casting the burden upon those folks who maybe don't drive as much. And there are ways to avoid this if that's a concern. I spent a lot of time on my electric scooter going around town, and I've gone about 250 miles at this point. So do the math on that. So I am with Mr. Reinert, though. Eight jump from 4.7 to 8 is a big leap, and I would be more in favor of a 2 cent increase.
Mr. Kearns?
So we did have a lot of this discussion in our committee and everything. But so over the last week or two, I've been talking to people and talking about our levy and talking about other things like solar farms, of course, my passion. But but I've been talking to a lot of people, and I'm saying here's what we're thinking of doing, and explain the situation on the motor fuel tax for the county, or the alternative is raise the levy. And so your taxes on your house go up, taxes. And one resident brought up to me a point. So the apartments, people that rent houses out at apartment buildings, what do? They pass that tax increase, I'm talking about real estate tax increase, levy, they pass that on to the renters. The renters in this county are probably the most susceptible to having financial problems. The rents are so high now they can't pay. So the option of taking the motor fuel tax up to the maximum so that we can help our levy burden, ease our levy burden as much as possible, is the better way as far as I'm concerned. Because the people from outside of the county who drive in through here and they buy fuel and gasoline, they help pay our bills then. They use our roads, they pay it, the truckers come through, the campers come through, everybody comes through, and we're opening more gas stations on every single corner. So we're selling gasoline in our county. So therefore, this is more appropriate to take this up to the full 8 cents right now. Because if we don't do it now, you're gonna be doing it next year again, you're gonna be doing it. And the people, with the other, we heard a lot of it tonight, they're gonna be really hurting even more because you're not gonna be able to help them at all.
Ms. Greeno?
So do we know how many gallons of gas are sold annually in McHenry County?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head, no.
No, not even a rough idea. I was just wondering what kind of revenue this would bring, and then what's the deficit that we have in the transportation with the equipment?
We levied $9 million this current year for the highway fund. We expect that to meet the capital needs for the highway fund next year, we're gonna have to levy at least 10.2 million. All right, but we shifted some other things around, and Carrie can help me on this, but we can make that increase zero if we have a motor fuel tax increase. Yeah. And that frees up another $1.2 million to do something else with in your levies. But there isn't enough levy space to accomplish everything we want to if we don't allow ourselves this tool. That's why it was raised, and it's your decision as to how we want to do it.
Okay, so that's 30 million gallons of gas, and I don't know, but I mean, that would just be an interesting question. And then my question also is this ongoing, or are we replenishing funds in order to cover capital expenditures? Is this ongoing operating, the $1.2 million shortfall? Is that due to regular operating expenses or capital expenditures?
We've deferred capital in recent years.
Yeah, but I mean, if we had that back on track, if we hadn't basically strung out our purchases on capital equipment, do we know what a normal budget would look like, and then what we'd have to do to be back in balance?
We can leave the highway fund at 9 million and even perhaps reduce it in future years if we allowed ourselves to capture these new revenues. I will say that. We have deferred expenses for a number of years. We've been robbing the highway fund in our efforts to keep the overall levy as low as possible. This would set us on a course for health in the highway fund. It hasn't been.
Okay, so then I have another question, and I'm sorry, but I mean, this would help a lot because we've got to vote on this right now. So the equivalence on the tax that I pay for my license for an EV is equivalent to 17,000 miles a year. And as far as taxes go, does the county get any of the money from the state for EVs?
We do not.
Oh, boy. So I'm just saying, because if this goes, I'm just saying, if this is in effect on the collar counties for gas, why would it not be in effect for what the state's taking from EVs? Yeah, so, I'm just saying we could maybe look into that also, in addition to that.
She's teeing you up, Pam.
Okay. Great minds. Okay, so that's all. And then did anybody actually make a motion to change the amount of the levy from 8 to 2 cents? Just a discussion. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for all the questions, but I'll sleep easier tonight.
The motion would be from 8 to 6.7. Right?
Right. Correct.
Which would be, the overall increase is proposed to be 3.3. You'd be bringing it down to 2. That's.
So what would that do for us if it was?
It's about a third less money.
Let's stay in order with the speakers here. Mr. Reiner?
What did we collect at the 0.047 cents in motor fuel tax? Maybe we can just do some simple math.
A little over 4 million.
So
4.5, I think we're estimating next year at 4.7.
So roughly half of that would get us another 2 million if we raised it to 6.7. Is my math wrong? I mean,
Scott?
4.47 got us $4 million.
So
Wouldn't 0.02 cents bring us 2 million?
So the current rate of 4.7 cents per gallon generates about $4.2 million a year for the Division of Transportation. The increase up to 8 cents, we're estimated, would generate about $3 million a year more. So it's about $900,000 per penny that you're talking about, just to quantify what you're
Yeah.
thinking.
So, and you're talking about 1.2 million to raise that.
I suggested that if absent any motor fuel tax increase, the levy ask is going to increase from 9 million to 10.2 million. And that is not going to get us in any healthier of a situation in the highway fund. That is treading water. We aren't moving the needle in improving this fund, which has been so choked in recent years.
I agree, Pete, it has been choked. But you've told me that 4.7, 4.7 cents has gotten us about 4 million. Another 2 would get us almost 2 million, and you're looking to raise it 1.2 million. I don't see how we need to almost double it when, if we go 50%, we could almost catch that. It just, I think my decision is made here. I would be a no vote at the full 8 cents, but I would split the baby if we'd want to make that friendly amendment.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Two-part question. I don't know if it's for Mr. Austin or Scott. When we were discussing this in transportation, there was 2 dates. January, you had to have everything, and was it the 4th of July or middle of the year?
July 1.
So there's 2 dates that if we don't do this now, we could still pick it up and get it into mid next year.
You've just lost about $3 million more. But yes, the answer to your question, yes.
Okay. And then second, when we were in I was, okay, this is a good idea, putting it to 2 or 3 cents, I'm cool with that. I'm not so happy, and I don't know if we can vote on this, keeping it at 8, or if we can amend it and make it lower. I was happy with what we put out of transportation. This is
what we put at transportation.
I don't think it was the full amount.
Well, respectfully, I apologize if that didn't come across, but we talked about a 3.3 cent increase, and that is what is before you.
It's taking it from 4.7.
Okay, I got a lit board here, so whoever's light is on, that's who gets to speak. Mr. Kunkel.
That was correct on the 3.3 from the meeting. Based on the graphs from that meeting, it looked to me mathematically like a little over 2 cents. In fact, I crunched the numbers based on the numbers we've had in the past from the county. It took 2.7 cents to exactly meet that $3 million need or ask that we have. We got to remember the 1.2 was a red line, bare bones minimum. We've been kicking the can on our trucks and stuff. In fact, we have trucks at transportation that will no longer be certified to use in the county. That's kind of a problem. So we need to be above that 1.2. And the other aspect that we have to look at it, I was all for moving this at an amended 2 cents, except for the fact of the EVs keep reducing what we actually are gaining. Gas tax, our motor fuel tax was going up year over year. We were looking solid, and it has been slipping steadily. Now, due to the administration at hand, EVs are being thrust upon us. That means we can't depend on that number to be this high again for next year, nor the year after that. So one way or another, we're coming back to our constituents multiple years. 2 cents, yes, right now will make the bare bones. But 3.3 would put us in enough stead that we could probably abstain raising this tax next year.
I would say some of you weren't here last year, but we did have to move money from the general fund to transportation because it was so desperately low. because it had been robbed for so many years. So, I mean, we're just starting to get back to the point where we need to be, and this is going to help us get above that point, and it will be a non-issue hopefully going forward. Mr. Scala?
Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree with Mr. Austin and his numbers. I think the 1.2 was a number that was like desperate. I mean, what I think those that were in transportation and saw the transportation budget proposal realize that the fact that we've been kicking the capital program down the road year after year after year after year, and that, you know, when I was sitting there, I kept on making the point that it's really like 1.7, 1.8 million that is truly needed in order to get us back to where we should have been or should be. And that, I think, is more realistic. I mean, this fund is, yes, we put $3 million last year as a transfer from general fund to this fund because it was in such dire need that we were actually borrowing to that fund in order to make payroll. That is not a healthy position to be in. Our budget policy says you're supposed to have 5-month reserve in that fund. We were negative months. That's not where we're supposed to be at. I think this is a very wise and prudent thing to do to try and get that fund back to where it should be and help that alleviate the pressure on our residents as far as property taxes go, and hopefully get the capital program back to where it should be. I still have concerns that this and future years, not next year and probably then not the year after that, but in out years with the cost of everything going up, you know, a plow truck that used to cost $250,000 is now $375,000, $400,000. And by the way, we don't actually get that truck for almost a year and a half, 2 years. So it's, I mean, the thought process of 2 cents is really just screwing us.
Ms. Altoff?
These decisions to raise taxes, whether they're a user tax or property tax levy, are always very, very, very difficult. But what we have in front of us is the responsible choice of doing what's in the best interest of all of the people within McHenry County. No one likes to raise the cost of providing services, whether they're mental health services, whether they're transportation services, you know, whether they're administrative services. But we do have an obligation to explain why we take the actions that we take and to do it in the best interest of providing the highest level of basic services to our constituents. This is a very reasonable measure after the years where we took absolutely no increases. This is what happens. We've faced major inflation. We have faced major increases, just natural growth. It's time for us to take action and to be responsible and ensure that we have an economic development program that encourages businesses to come to McHenry, which ultimately may lower property taxes. I mean, this is difficult for me too, but I think it's the best possible action we can take. And I would strongly urge all of you to consider voting yes and going back to your constituents and explaining to them exactly why you did this. And let me remind you, it's not affecting just the people who live here. It's affecting everyone who chooses to buy gasoline here. So it's relatively fair as opposed to doing just across-the-board property tax increases. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yeah, I'll keep it short, but we were at a 4 cents a gallon tax. It was tied to inflation since, I believe, 2019. Since 2019, the tax has increased 17.5%. Now we're asking to raise it another 80%, which also happens to be the absolute maximum allowed by statute, I believe. And then I can't remember who it was, but someone made a comment, yeah, of course, we might not have to increase this in the future. Well, we're already at the highest possible tax allowed by state statute. And you're right, we won't have to increase it in the future because it'll just automatically increase every single year by CPI. 10 years from now, it'll be 13 cents a gallon. I just don't, everybody, you know, it's $2.5 million increase here, $3 million increase there. Eventually it adds up. We have an unreal amount of taxing bodies in this state, and every single one uses the same argument, which is, oh, it's only a little bit, it's only a little bit. But when you add 8,000 of them up, we get the second highest state and local tax burden in the entire country, one of the highest property taxes. We don't need to raise the levy either. We could always tighten our belt, which is what everybody else does. You know, I just, so many people campaign, I feel that they're against taxes, but then, or will fight taxes, but then when push comes to shove, we just up it and we say, oh, you know, we only increased the levy a little bit. No one will talk about this. We also doubled the gas tax. And I'm a no. I don't get it. I don't think we need it. I think we should, at a minimum, postpone it. If it's September 28th, fine. If it's some other date, fine. I don't care. We should look at it. We haven't even addressed the budget for next year, and we're just voting to double the gas tax, which is also a regressive tax. I do agree with the comments that it's a use tax, and as a general rule, I do favor use taxes over property taxes, but I think it allocates it more responsibly on the people actually enjoying the service. But to just increase it this much, and then no one ever has to make a tough decision again because we're at the max, and it's just going to keep going up every year, and we can just pretend, oh, you know, that's state statute. I'm a no.
Ms. Campbell?
I think by now most everything has been said, so I'm not sure there's a whole lot to add. I am in favor. I do think it's a very tough decision. I do think it is based on a user tax. It is one of those things where we do have the potential to change it later. I mean, not necessarily up, but we could take it down if we find that we found other revenue sources and we're in a better position going down the line. It was my understanding out of finance that the increase would fund primarily the things that we would delay. And that we have delayed in the past, our capital improvements, which are our roads. And I do think that people using the roads bear a larger burden of that. Yes, I do have an electric vehicle, and so I know that there's going to be opportunities down the line to tap into that. Because it's not just electric vehicles. We're facing a situation where there are a lot more fuel-efficient cars on the road, right? So this is a funding issue that will be in front of us for a very long time. But this is unfortunately, we need to do something with the roads. It's hard to tighten your belt on a road project or, you know, the material that you need to keep your roads safe. And it does support our businesses, our farmers, and our residents who rely on those roads for their well-being. So I will be a yes on it, even if not very happy about it, but I recognize that it's something that we need to do.
Okay. Last one, Mr. Reinert. Everybody's spoken almost twice, and there's some that have spoken three and would be a fourth if I call them again. So we're gonna have the last one here, Mr. Reinert.
Thank you. This is my third, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Here's my problem. We had to take from the general fund last year, and yet here, we knew we needed this. At the 11th hour, we're taxing it as much as we can. It's just not, it's not bearing well for me. A full 8 cents is a no for me. I would split this in the middle, but I'm a no at 8 cents. I have never seen a user tax or a tax go down. I haven't. They don't go down. If somebody wants to accept a friendly amendment to 2 cents, which would be .67, I would make that friendly amendment.
You making a motion
I would make that
to
motion.
drop it by 2 cents? Is there a second? Ms. Greeno, seconds. Discussion on that motion? I'm going to give you one time to speak here. Mr. Hendricks.
All right, I'll just say something real quick. I hate this increase less, about 2 cents less. We still shouldn't vote on it. We should delay it. I know, I agree with Mr. Reinert in that use taxes won't go down, and I don't know why we're kidding ourselves that we will. This won't go down in the future. We won't hold it. And as far as being in a better fiscal position, and maybe we will, we're a debt-free county with the highest possible credit rating, and yet here we are doubling the gas tax. Or increasing it 40%.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I thought I heard Mr. Reinert say he was okay with moving it up 2 cents per gallon. And I thought I heard the chairman say that it was coming down 2 cents a gallon.
Same thing, same difference, right? Down from 8 cents to 6 cents, correct?
But it's at 0.047 now. It's a 3.3 raised at 0.08. So it's not a total 4 cents to split 2 in the middle.
So 6.7 would be Mr. Reinert's motion, correct?
Oh, thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Mr. Kearns.
Okay. If, I think I ran for this board in 2016. Anyone who's followed this board or has been on this board to answer Mr. Hendrick's question has known that I have fought tooth and nail to keep our levy flat. And if we lowered the levy, which we have in the past, to make that sustainable. And so this is very difficult, and I understand where you guys are coming from. It's very difficult. But look at my perspective here a little bit. My perspective is I've always said no to taxes and increases. However, we never had any inflation. The inflation, and it's not going to change, folks, the inflation has busted all of these budgets. And we don't know a lot of things that are going to hit us in the future. Let's say we have to start paying for some housing rental for residents that come in from Chicago as they're trying to find places to put them. Let's say that comes to us, and that'll break our budget too. So we don't know what's coming in the future, guys. And right now, we're struggling with our budget on our levy. Our residents are struggling on their levies, our increases. Our school districts are going to take their maximums, as they always do, and they're the biggest bite of the taxes. And so I disagree with not taking the full amount, the 8 cents. And if inflation continues the way it is, fuel prices, all the prices, food, go to the grocery store, guys. The people can't afford that. So let's get the people who are not in the county, at least, and are using our roads and causing some of our transportation problems here in our budget. And the number of deferred equipment in our budget would have had to been, we'd have to take 2.1 million to make ourselves whole here. And we just need to do this time. And you can say it never comes down, but let's all, if we get roses and everything and negative inflation, which we won't, then you could lower it. And I'm not promising to come back and lower it. I'm not gonna make that false promise to anyone. But I think we should take this 8 cents. And it's very important to this budget because If you don't take the 8 cents here, you're gonna take it in your levy here in 2 weeks. To defer it to September 28th anytime is just that you're trying to kill it. And we need to vote on it right now. So I rest my case on this. I've never pushed a tax increase, but I'm pushing for this one. And that's the first time since 2016 in my political career that I pushed for an increase.
Ms. Meshes.
Thank you. So that, I'm going to reiterate one point that Chair of the Transportation Committee, Chair Kern said, is that we take it through the use tax or we take it through the levy. And I realize that some of us, it's our first budget cycle going on the board, and it's quite a learning curve. At least it was for me 2 years ago. This tax is happening one way or the other. So the question is, do we want to take it as a use tax or do we want to take it as a levy? Because we're not going to stop funding the transportation needs of the county. Being able to use the roads safely, being able to transport goods across the roads, drawing tourists to the roads, to the county, it is all dependent on our roads and bridges being well-maintained and having our equipment well-maintained for the transportation department. So we're not gonna cut the transportation budget. We're not going to say no when they tell us that we need to do a project or that we need to buy equipment. So in some ways, it is nice to think that we could say we're gonna keep taxes, flat when the levy comes. It's nice to say that we're not gonna raise MFT, but we have to fund our transportation roads. We have to keep the roads safe. If we're gonna start saying, well, we'll just start saying no to resolutions for the transportation department, then we're gonna find that our users of the roads are going to have far higher costs when they have to repair broken wheel basins, broken car pieces. We'll lose to tourism if our stuff's not together. So I don't believe that we'll ever say, no, we're not gonna do what we need to do to make sure we're safe and easily able to transport to the county. And we absolutely need to pass the MFT. So I'm gonna be a no to the amendment that says make it just 6.7. However, if that does pass, I will pass MFT one way or the other. I will say yes, however it comes, but I will say no to not taking the full 8.
Ms. Van Hoff?
Yes, I'm a no vote on the full 8%, or the 8 cent. The 6.7 I can live with. This hurts, I think. When I drive through certain towns where I know the gas tax, the motor fuel tax is higher, I keep going until I get to a place where it's lower. And it's hitting me hard to hear this. And I guess I would like to hear a robust argument like this on increasing the levy for mental health. That to me, what, Peter, I'm gonna concede to Peter. I know you wanted to say something and your light is on. I'm a no vote on the full 8.
Okay, seeing no further comments, we're gonna vote on this motion to amend to 6.7 cents. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Nay. Nays have it. We'll get back to the original motion to approve. I think we've had plenty of discussion here, so we're gonna go to a.
Division of the House. I'm calling for a division of the House.
I don't think it's necessary.
I'd like everybody to admit how they voted. I'd like everybody to go on record how they're gonna vote tonight.
I don't think it matters.
We will be as soon as we get the chance to vote.
It's an absolute privilege.
I don't know, do we have to vote on that for division of the House?
I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay, call the roll, please.
I'm sorry, what is this
This is for the vote on the amendment, right? Yes. The ordinance is gonna be a roll call vote anyhow, because it's electronic voting. So he's asking for a division of the House on the amendment that was proposed by Mr. Reiner.
So if I voted no just now, vote no now.
Correct.
Thank you.
I don't mean to add to this, but I don't know what you mean by division of the House.
That's like a roll call vote, Lou.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Ms. Campbell?
Is the voting open?
It's almost over.
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be heard?
No.
I'll vote no.
Let's see what happens here. All right,
Are we back to the original motion now?
yes.
So the motion for Mr. Reinert's amendment did not carry. We're going to go to the original motion on the ordinance. Plenty of discussion has been had, so we're going to open the voting here. Voting's open.
Yeah, it's almost closed.
Ms. Ness, how would you like to be heard?
Yes.
Motion carries. Pete, you got a report for us tonight?
Super quick. We had a Education Department head meeting last Friday, and we decided we're gonna have our holiday party on December the 14th after your town meeting. So Kathy will send out a meeting invite for you on that tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pete.
Okay. This afternoon, over the lunch hour, I attended a lunch meeting of the McHenry County Chiefs of Police Association. It was their monthly meeting, but the main topic, as you might imagine, was the Pretrial Fairness Act. Judge Camille came down and addressed all the chiefs and their command staff and really did a great presentation. He put on the table what I put on your table today. That's kind of a summary of his report. They are going to be meeting again on October the 4th, but I wanted to commend Chief Judge Camille for coming down and addressing the chiefs today. I also have participated in a meeting this afternoon for the Illinois State Association of Counties. Noteworthy is that they are trying to put together a solar power task force. They've asked for 5 counties to be representative, and I volunteered us. So between Pam and Adam and Renee, we'll get some folks there. They aren't really talking about trying to repeal this. They're just trying to talk about approving it, and really not very high aspirations for the veto session, but looking forward more towards the spring. But they are, I said, we've got lots of ideas, so we'll be part of that. Alicia has updated your strategic plan report card, and that is live right now. And I guess I just wanted to again remind that in 9 days, on the morning of September 28th, we're going to have our fiscal 24 budget committee of the whole meeting. And Carrie and I already have the presentation kind of together. Kathy's helping us make look good. We're going to be reviewing it with Chairman Scala and Chairman Bueller. But looking forward to that discussion on the morning. It'll be at 10 a.m. after PHCS, so thank you.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Scala makes the motion, seconded by Dr. Sager. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Have a good night.